Knox Country
Podcast Edition.
I've always been around great songwriters and artists my whole life. I'm Michael Knox. Welcome to my world.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jason Aldean, and you are listening to my boy Michael Knox on Knox Country
Podcast.
Welcome to the Knox Country Syndicated Radio Show podcast. We are here today with Rhett Akins.
What's up?
I've known you for a long time. When I was a song plugger back in the 90s, I used to pitch to you as an artist.
You did, that's correct.
And I think I got one cut on there, a Marv Green song or something.
That is right, yeah. Man, that was, I moved to town at the beginning of, end of 92. And so I probably met you at least by 94 because my first album came out in 95.
Well, back then, you were the young guy.
Oh, yeah.
In like a man's world of artists, you know.
Boy, I'm telling you, I came in at a time that was, it was a great time because country music was really killing it, you know. But it was also a hard time because the people that were killing it were giants. Yeah. I mean, it was Garth, Alan Jackson, Travis Tritt, Clint Black, George Strait. I mean, the biggest of the big that we still love today, our icons, were the people that I was, you know, trying to make music, you know, with at the same time. So it was a fun but also terrifying time to make music.
Now, how many number ones did you have as an artist?
I had 3.
Yeah, because I remember it was that second record, you know.
The first record had That Ain't My Truck,
yeah.
And then it had a ballad called She Said Yes was the last single, and then the first single off the next album was called Don't Get Me Started.
Yeah.
And all three I had three in a row right there that were rocking pretty good.
But That Ain't My Truck is still a standard.
That Ain't My Truck is still, yes. I get a when I get my quarterly check from BMI, for those of y'all who don't know, that's a company that's how songwriters get paid. They track all the radio plays and TV plays. Now when I get my statement every quarter, That Ain't My Truck is listed as a standard because it has, I think the rule is it had to have been played like almost 2 million times, and it has to still get played like 30 to 50,000 times a quarter. So it's almost 20, what is that? It came out in 95.
Yeah.
23 years later, it's still that song, Dust on the Bottle. There's a few songs that should have been a cowboy. There's a few songs that it fits in that category of it's still almost new. I hear it at least once a week.
But now a lot of people don't know you are the father of Thomas Rhett.
Yes.
You know.
That's my new name.
That's
artist formerly known as Rhett Akins. Just Thomas Rhett's daddy. That's how especially when you see a young teenage girl or something, someone, you know who that is? That's Rhett Akins, you know, and they have a blank stare on their face. Then they go, "That's Thomas Rhett's daddy." And buddy, I'm the most popular guy in the room after that.
But were you his age when all this was happening?
No, I moved to town when I was 22 or 3.
Okay.
And Thomas Rhett, he got his first record deal when he was 19 to 20.
Okay.
So I was a few years older than Thomas Rhett at the time, but you know, Thomas Rhett had a lifetime of education on the road because I've got so many videos and pictures of Thomas Rhett with me on stage, on a tour bus. There's pictures that fans send me now online of Thomas Rhett when he's 7 years old signing autographs after a gig that I played, and they still have those pictures. That has to be pretty cool.
That's great.
You know, to go, I was looking through my old attic and found these pictures, and there's this kid, you know, and it's Thomas Rhett signing his name after one of your shows. So he's always been in the spotlight, even though he didn't know it.
Well, dude, when I was where me and you kind of have an interesting kind of crossing is when I was a kid. My dad was a 50s artist.
Right.
And I used to ride around in his motorhome with him when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. So every time I hear you talk about Thomas, I'm like going, God, man, well, that reminds me so much of me and my dad, because I would go see him in the summers because they were divorced, my mom and dad, and I would sleep on the dashboard of his Winnebago. Back then you had to wear car seats. And, you know, so I would just lay on the dashboard and he'd tell me stories driving.
Yeah.
So that had to have been amazing. Now, fast forward a few years, he came to town, he started writing, but you wrote with him his first single. Is that correct?
Not the first single, his first number one.
Yes, first
which,
number one.
By the way, you produced.
Yes.
It was called It goes like this.
Yeah, like-
and so he had 2 singles out that went to like 15 to 13, which was great, especially for a new artist. But Scott Borchetta, the head of the label and the A&R staff, were like, we really need one. Like, we're happy with everything that's going on, but we need a smash. And so me and Ben Hayslip and Jimmy Robbins wrote this song one day, and me and Thomas Rhett were at dinner a couple of nights later, and I said, dude, check out this song. I wasn't trying to pitch him the song. I just always like to play him new songs that I've written. What do you think about this? Who do you think could cut that? And I played it for him at dinner, and he listened to the verse and the chorus and was like, Dad, I got to have it. I got to have that. And then, of course, you produced it.
But I remember all that. He sent me a comp tape of 20 songs and said, man, pick 4. What 4 would you cut? So that was
when
one of the...
When you say you're talking about...
Thomas.
Yeah.
And that was one of the 4 that I loved.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. Well, that song, man, if you go see him in concert, I mean, that came out in 2013.
Yeah.
So it's 5 years old, and obviously he's had a lot of success since then. But when that song comes on, when you hear that guitar lick, down, it's like a brand new song also. The crowd absolutely loves that song. But I have to be honest with you, man, I was so nervous. I'm nervous with every time I have a song out on the radio that somebody records of mine, but when it's your kid and it's on the line, it's like the label is really, really, really counting on this single. It's like watching your kid pitch in the World Series or something. You know what I mean? It's like 9th inning against the Yankees, and Jeter's up to bat, and your kid's pitching. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, I gotta watch it, but I don't want to watch it.
But that was a 3-week number.
It was a 3-week number 1, but I was just so.
How did
nervous.
that make you feel though when it got to that number 1 spot?
It was incredible. I mean, nobody gets to do anything, like that with their kid.
Yeah.
That's a rare experience.
But now you get to go, hey man, I saved you.
I bring it up at certain times of the year.
Thanksgiving,
he'll call me and be like, hey Dad, you want to split this? Like, let's go skiing. You want to split a house with me? And I'm like, don't you still owe me for them first 2 trucks and private school and stuff like that? But no, we kid about stuff like that. But it is I'm extremely blessed to be able not only to do what I do, but to be able to do it with your kid and to watch your son, become a big star.
Well, that's great kid. Well, let's get back to you now. I mean, because man, you after your artist thing, how many years did that take for you? Because I remember that you had Kiss My Country Ass, right? You had a couple of things like that, but how long was that transition from
artist to writer,
leaving the artist deal and moving into being a firm writer?
Well, after the second, I had the second record deal that didn't work out at all, and I was obviously mad and upset and just kind of like, screw this whole thing, man. I think everybody goes through that I'm moving back home phase 1 to 20 times in their career in Nashville. I've said I was moving home a bunch of times, but this time I really meant it. This time I was just fed up. And it took me about 2 weeks to get over that. And I went to my publishing company and I said, man, I'm over the artist thing. I've done it for 15 years. I'd love to write songs and just see if I could have some hits with other artists. And they were kind of skeptical about it, and I was too. Really, I'd never attempted to do that. So that record deal ended about 2006, and I started writing full time for other people about 2007. And I got my first hit in 2008 with Brooks and Dunn. It was called "Put a Girl in It."
Yeah,
it was off their last album.
That was huge.
Yeah, off the last album they ever did. And then the next year in 2009, I had a single called Barefoot and Crazy by Jack Ingram that was a top 10. And then starting about 2010, we had 3 number 1s that year, and then it just kind of started snowballing.
Yeah. Oh, dude, but it blew up. I mean, you were like a staple on the charts, like 2 or 3 singles a year. I mean, and what was that? What was your Triple Play Awards? I mean, you said you had 3 years multiples in
I mean, I've averaged since 2010 I've averaged about 3 number 1s a year.
That's crazy, dude.
Plus some top 5s, and then there's singles that die at 50. Do you
think the artist thing made you relate to that better?
Oh yeah, it does, man. I understand artists. I think to be in this business you have to be a psychiatrist a lot of times, or a psychologist. You gotta this people are just weird, man. Like Billy Currington said, people are crazy, and we're weird people that create, whether you're an actor or writer or an artist, and so everybody has their little quirks and egos and things like that. And so I feel like being an artist myself, I know what these guys go through.
Yeah.
So I've been on tour buses or supposed to write with an artist many a time, and they call me 5 minutes before we were supposed to write. And man, I just got home from Canada, dude. You know, I hate to cancel, but man, I can't do it today. And instead of getting mad, I'm like, dude, I totally get it. I've been right where you are. When you feel like writing, holler at me.
But one of the great things about you that I'm a big fan of is you as a person, as a songwriter, you are such your fan base. And when you write, you are a country music lover.
Yeah. And
you are your fan base. And it's genuinely hard to find that as an open book as you are. I mean, because I know you. A lot of people, might not know you listening or whatever, but I know that you're a country music lover. I know you're a small town America guy.
Yeah.
And man, when you have that mixed in with your talent, which is nuts, that's when you have what you have.
Well, thank you.
I mean, what do you got, man? You got 28 number ones. I mean, that's nuts, dude.
Yeah. Well, I'm an observer. I've always been a people watcher. Like I told you before this interview started, I played a gig in Savannah, Georgia this weekend. And instead of taking the interstate back home to Nashville, which was about a 7.5 hour drive, I took the back roads all the way back home, which turned into about a 13-hour drive, just because I love small towns. Yeah. I stopped at a roadside stand and bought boiled peanuts. I went to Wrightsville, Georgia, just so I could see Herschel Walker's high school football field where he played.
Yeah.
I sat
now, what was the first town you said you stopped in?
Statesboro, Georgia, which is Georgia
you used
Southern
to play
University.
there a lot as an artist.
I did, yes.
Now, I had somebody send me a picture of a teddy bear they bought.
Yeah.
Oh.
Was that one
with
of
the
your...
Rhett Akins t-shirt on it? Yeah. That was some of my great merch ideas. Hey, y'all, this is Rhett Akins, and you're listening to Knox Country
Podcast.
But no, what I was saying is I took the back roads all the way home because that not only do I love it and that's where I came from, but I get so many song ideas, and I just like to watch people. I like to see guys out on a tractor.
Yeah.
I stopped at this little place in Sandersville, Georgia, where they just make little barbecue sandwiches and stuff like that. And I just like to watch. I just like to see what rural America does. Yeah. And you produce Jason Aldean, and that's one of the greatest things about Jason. He's from Georgia too, is that I think that we love to put in 3 minutes what everyday rural America lives and breathes.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's one of the reasons for my success is I don't hold myself up in Nashville. I'm always traveling, I'm always observing, and I just like to write songs about the real people out there.
No, I do. I'm from Georgia too. I'm from Macon, Georgia, but I grew up on. I mention this to everybody in here. New Way hamburgers and hot dogs. Did you ever eat one of them in Macon, Georgia?
I have not. No.
We'll see. This is a road trip.
Okay, let's go to New Way.
We got to go to New Way.
I did go to the place called the Dairy Lane in Sandersville. Yeah. I've been there one time before because Luke Bryan's wife, Caroline, is from Sandersville, and I went there with them one time, and they said, we got to go to the Dairy Lane, and it's just this little old place, man. So, yeah. Like the Varsity in Atlanta. Yeah. There's certain places in Georgia that you just got to go to. And that just I'm not going to write a song about eating a hamburger probably, but I'm going to write, but going to those kind of places, somebody says something that you hear in the next corner booth. You just observe
the lifestyle.
Yeah. And that's what I try to write. That's what I've written mostly in my career.
Oh yeah. And you want to talk about how you connect with the fan base and the audience and what's going on. I got to read something. So you have placed at least one song on Billboard's country airplay chart every week for the past 7 years.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Bob, is that a real chart?
Yeah, Bob Kingsley, who's done the country, chart for last 40-something years, sent me an email last year, and he said, "Hey, my guys were just doing some research on the countdown, and we found out that we have not done a show." Period in 7 years, then one of your songs was not on the
crazy,
chart.
Dude.
Yeah. And to have that come from Bob, literally, I used to sit in my driveway in my truck and listen to the countdowns on Sunday just to hear Bob's voice. I loved Casey Kasem and I loved all the other guys, but there's something about Bob's voice when he said the number one song of the week is this. It was like official. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bob, that was the stamp of you've made it if Bob Kingsley says that. So that was cool to get that from him.
So when did the Peach Pickers thing, how did it come about? Were y'all just kind of, I mean, because three-ways were unusual then.
Right. Peach Pickers is a little group that I named. It's me and Ben Hayslip and Dallas Davidson. Ben Hayslip and I met in 8th grade on a baseball team. And from the moment we met, in the dugout, in the car on the way of the game, even in the outfield when we were playing the games, we were singing songs. We were writing songs. And so I've known Ben since 83 or 4, and he was living here. And I didn't meet Dallas until 04, but I met him and Luke and Jamie Johnson and Randy Hauser, Jared Neiman. It was this whole crew of outlaw boys, you know, that I just loved and got to know Dallas. And so me and Ben and Dallas started writing. We had a couple of writes on a Wednesday, and we started writing some really good songs, and people were cutting them. And next thing you know, we just called our publishing company and said, hey, every Wednesday, just block it out. From now till forever, that's Peach Picker Wednesday. And me and Dallas and Ben, you know, been getting together for 10 years now on Wednesdays.
So what was the first
songs.
What was the first one? What was the first?
Our first hit was Put a Girl in It. And the way that happened was Ben and I were writing. Dallas was coming back from Atlanta. He wasn't there yet. So Ben and I were writing this song called Country Strong for Blake Shelton. And the first verse and the second verse were about a farmer and a cowboy. And Ben Hayslip said, man, you know, dudes ain't the only people that are country strong. Girls are too. I think we need to put a girl in this song. Oh. And as soon as he said that, I was like, whoa now. I said, let's put this country strong song on hold and let's write that Put a Girl in It. And Dallas came in the room at that time, and we told him what we had done. And next thing you know, a month or so later, Ronnie Dunn sends us an email from Brooks and Dunn and says, love this song, gonna cut it. So that was the song that really got us going. Yeah.
But now y'all are touring. I mean, y'all will pop up on like Luke Bryan's tour.
We do Luke Bryan's farm tour. We've done it since 2011. The big goal is to go out there and write with Luke or whoever's opening, you know, for Luke during the tour. But we also have our own band, and we actually open for Luke. And it is so amazing. Not many songwriters get a chance to do this. You know, people get to go to concerts and see, you know, the artist sing your song, but it's very rare that you get to go on stage and sing your songs for 20,000 people that are there to see Luke Bryan and watch these people go nuts. It's like we literally don't have to sing a word to any of our songs, and we get to play our Jason Aldean songs. The only songs we can't play are Luke songs. You know, that makes Dallas mad because he's got a lot. We get to sing our Jasons, our Thomas Rhett's, our Dustin Lynch's, Brooks and Dunn, John Party, whatever songs we've had out on the radio, we get to sing them for 20,000 people, and that's really good education. That really helps us go, hey, we know what people like, man, because we're out there seeing it.
And I'm sure it fuels you, too.
Yeah, we're not sitting in Nashville in this little cubby hole wondering what people like. We're literally seeing the results of what. And you know, a good education also is it might have been a hit on the radio, might have been a number one, but you get out there and play it live and you see that people don't react to it as well. So it's like there is a kind of a disconnect sometimes between what actually goes number one and what people actually love. There's songs that only go to 15 or 10 that people love more than a song that went number one. So that's a good education too, to know that just because radio played it more than any other song doesn't mean that the whole world loved it like they did this one. So it's a really good way. It's fun, and you just get to see what really works.
Knox Country Podcast Edition.
Some of you know me as a record producer for acts like Jason Aldean and Thomas Rhett. Others know me as the son of rock and roll legend Buddy Knox, Party Doll fame back in 1957. I'm Michael Knox. Welcome to my world. You're listening to Knox Country
Podcast.
Hey, this is Keith Urban.
What's up, y'all? It's your boys here, Florida Georgia Line.
Hey, this is Little Big Town.
And you're listening to Knox Country.
You've entered Knox Country.
Welcome back to the Knox Country Podcast. Well, speaking of radio, I was out at the ACM Awards this year. Got to watch you on the big Tron in between commercials. Why they don't let y'all run up on stage and get your award? But Songwriter of the Year, ACMs. Now, is that a first, or that
is a first? I've been nominated for one ACM before this. It was in 1998. I was not nominated for the Horizon Award, which is basically like newcomer. It was me, Kenny Chesney, and Michael Peterson.
Yeah, and I remember that. And Chesney
and somebody named Kenny Kenny Chesney won. I don't think he's done anything since then. They obviously picked the wrong
What a
guy.
waste.
But I remember that because a lot of people were like, how did Kenny win it? He's been around 4 years,
Yeah, exactly.
but he never was nominated.
Right,
you know?
yeah. So that's the only time I was ever nominated for an ACM was literally 20 years later. And, dude, I was shocked. I mean, we have so many great writers. It was me, Ashley Gorley, Josh Osborne, Shane McAnally, Lori McKenna, Hillary Lindsay. It was like, I just really, I was, I mean, I
Were
didn't
you shocked?
even.
So you were shocked?
I was totally shocked. When they called Stormy Warren, announced it, called my name, I mean, I apologized to all the other writers. I was like, I'm sorry, y'all. During my acceptance speech, I was like, I truly wish that we all won it because every one of those guys is absolutely phenomenal songwriter.
So what singles this year did you have with that fell into that?
Well, I had Dirt on My Boots by John Party. I had Small Town Boy by Dustin Lynch, which was the most played song or biggest audience. More people heard that than any other song. Thomas Rhett, star of the show. Plus, I had some singles. I got Blake's new song, "I Lived It," out right now, and Justin Moore and Thomas Rhett's. So it's kind of a combination of what I had last year and what was just beginning.
But dude,
Dirt on My
Boots.
Yeah, that was a big one. That was a.
I heard the demo.
Yeah.
Somebody's.
Did we pitch that to Jason?
Yeah. Well, it just came my way. So I don't know if I got it before or after. It's been a while ago.
That was a rare one because that song really should have never been written. Ashley Gorley and Jesse Frazier and I wrote this song, but we weren't booked to write with each other that day. We all had different rights with someone else. And Ashley called me the night before and said, "Hey man, you want to try to write a song before we write a song?" And I was like, "Absolutely not, dude." I said, "Well, you do get there at 8 o'clock and write a song." 8 o'clock for songwriters is like 4 a.m. for normal people. It's like 8. I hadn't even opened my eyes at 8 o'clock. And he said, "Come on, man, let's try it." So we go to Jesse Frazier's at 8 a.m. and we have another write scheduled at 10:30. We wrote that song from 8 a.m. to 10:30. I sang it. It was all done in 2.5 hours. And I walked out of that room and never thought about the song again. I was like, I don't know if it's good. It's too early. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then a few months later, we hear that John Party wants to record it. And as happy as I was that John had it, I was also not happy because his biggest single he'd ever had was out at the time called Head Over Boots. And I'm like, there is no way in this entire world that they will put 2 boot songs out on the same artist. And sure enough, they put out 2 boot songs back to back, and they were like the biggest songs of these had.
Yeah, but Dirt on My Boots was huge.
Yeah, so that was just one of those, and that's just another. There's no way I could have written the lyrics to that song if I hadn't lived that song, like we were talking about growing up in rural America and watching farmers, and I go hunting all the time out at my place, a little bit out of town in Dixon, Tennessee. And you go to Logan's Roadhouse on a Friday night in Dixon, Tennessee, and dude, I'm talking about it's packed. And them boys got on their $200 jeans and their shirt tucked in and their phone on their belt and their camo hat on, but them boots are the same boots that they wore to work that day.
Yeah.
So it's like I know I've lived that. I've seen it. I've lived it. So that's just one of them songs that was real, but it was real different and funky at the same time. So that was just a cool one.
Now, we've had a lot of people who talk about their biggest hits. They say how they can't. There's really not a big story about how it happened because they'll sit there and do something like, "Man, that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
That just happened." So you're saying the same thing about Dirt on My Boots. That you just kind of showed up.
We couldn't
y'all
think
wrote
of anything to write. I didn't want to be there in the first place, and I was kind of like leaning down with my head. I was pretending like I was trying to come up with a song idea, but I think I was trying to hide a yawn or something. Then I was looking down at my boots, and I'd been out at my farm, and they were all muddy, and they're the same boots I've been wearing for 10 years. And I said, "Dude, what about Dirt on My Boots? I got the boots on. Let's write that." So
that's good.
I'm looking at all the massive cuts here, like Honeybee.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, huge for Blake Shelton, highest selling digital debut by a country male solo artist.
Wow, yeah, that's another song that wasn't supposed to happen. We never had that song idea. We were stumped. We'd been there a couple hours, couldn't think of anything to write. So I'm flipping through a magazine, just to pass the time, and I read this article about the governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee, who plays bass guitar. He came to Nashville to play on somebody's record, and I misread his name and pronounced it Mike Huckleberry. And I said, you remember that movie Tombstone where Doc Holliday said, I'm your Huckleberry? So we tried to write that. And I'm your Huckleberry turned into I'm your honeysuckle, which turned into you're my honeysuckle, I'm your honeybee. So that was another song that really was not supposed to be written. So you have to
thank Mike Huckabee for that.
I thank Mike Huckabee for that song. Thank you, Gov. maybe I can drive through Arkansas 120 and not get pulled over.
So now, hunting, fishing, loving every day. That's probably my favorite. We had Dallas in here too.
Yeah,
that's probably my favorite.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that one's
Luke Bryan's song he's ever cut.
That one's just, man, when you wouldn't believe the text and phone calls that I got from other songwriters in town, and writers that you wouldn't think they weren't real country writers. They're more pop and pop leaning and hip hop or not country people at all. They'd never hunted, fished, and I'd get a text going, dude, that Luke Bryan song is the jam.
Yeah.
It's got that flange guitar at the beginning that sounds like an old Waylon or Hank Jr. or Alabama song, and it just has that good stomp to it. And that's another one that was written on the farm tour with Luke. Me and Dallas and Ben were on our bus. Luke was on his bus, and Luke calls and says, "Hey, y'all need to get your butts over to my bus right now. I'm on something." So we go over to Luke's bus. And he's sitting there with a guitar, and he's just stomping the floor with his bare foot. Luke's got on nothing but basketball shorts, stomping his foot, and he goes, hunting, fishing, and loving every day. Da 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 da. Da 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 da, hunting, fishing, and loving every day. And he had the biggest smile on his face. He goes, "Boys, that's a smash." And we're like, "Yeah, those two lines are really good," you know. And so that was a song that we said this will never be a hit. It's the wrong time. You know, we live in a different world now where you can't even catch a fish without getting in trouble. You know, don't want to hurt the little fish. You know, I'm gonna throw him right back. You can't talk about guns. You know, it's just a very, in this politically correct world, that was a song that should have come out in the 70s or 80s, not 2000, 15.
Yeah, but the first time I heard it was at the awards when he debuted it, and Jeff Stevens and them were sitting behind me, and I just turned around going, man, how did I not hear this song? and Jeff goes, Luke wrote it,
And well, we didn't think Luke would put it out. And he called us one day and he said, "Boys," he goes, "gonna go out on a limb." He goes, "We're gonna put this one out. It might go to 15. It might not do anything, but I love it. It's our lives. Let's put it out." And thank God he did, and it worked. And I'm proud of that one also.
It's such a feel good song, though.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't help but love it.
I know. Yeah, and you got to be. That song's detailed. I mean, there are details about hunting and fishing that if you don't hunt or fish, you're like, what's a 9.92 stroke? You know what I mean? So hopefully, if
but
it
it's
was,
like I didn't know.
If it was me and I didn't know what it was, I'd go Google it. I do that all the time. I hear lines and songs from. I'm like, what in the world did they mean on that song? I'm interested in stuff like that. So hopefully some people, maybe it turns some people on to taking their kids out fishing.
Hey guys, it's Shalacy. Check us out on the web at knoxcountry360.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at knoxcountry360.
Well, now me and you were talking a little bit before we started, and we were talking about the first time I met Thomas. Thomas Rhett. I think I cut his first. I think I gave him his first cut too with "I Ain't Ready to Quit."
That's right.
Him and Jaron Boyer. But I remember setting all that up for you. You called me to see if he could come over and hear the cut. And do you remember how all that went down?
I just remember we were at the beach, and we knew that Jason had the song, but weren't sure if he was going to record it. And you called me and said, "Hey man," you said, "I got some exciting news," and I thought I got a cut on Jason Aldean. And I'm like, yes, I got a Jason cut, And you go, "We just cut your boy's song, Ain't Ready to Quit." And dude, and Thomas Rhett was standing over in the kitchen. I can picture it right now. I said, "Oh my gosh." He goes, "What?" I said, "Is Jason with you?" And you said, "Yeah." You put Jason on the phone. And I said, "Somebody wants to talk to you, Thomas Rhett, real quick." And you can imagine being 19 And Jason Aldean is on the other end of the phone saying, "I just recorded a song that you wrote."
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, and I remember you called me and just said, "Hey, man," or we were trying to hook it up, him coming over to hear it, and then him and Jaron Boyer showed up, and it was both their first cuts.
Right.
And man, I remember them sitting in my office and me playing it, man, and it was like, I was just playing it, because I'd heard it 1,000 times already.
Yeah.
But it was like them hearing watching the Super Bowl.
It was.
Win. And they were grinning ear to ear, bouncing around. So it was real exciting for me because that album we had probably 7 or 8 new writers get their first cuts on that.
I remember Jason telling me that. He said, "Man," he goes, "I got a lot of songs on this album from writers that I've never heard of," and he goes, "But dude, I'm into the new, fresh stuff. I don't want to do the same thing every single time." So that's cool on Jason's part to even be open for that.
And just so you know, man, now every time we start looking for songs, it always starts with you, Dallas. David Lee, Neil Thrasher.
Yeah.
I mean, it all starts with this small group of people.
Jason does have his core, of people, and I'm proud to have even gotten one song. I mean, Jason has recorded 4 songs of mine, and 3 of them have been number ones.
Yeah,
that's unheard of.
Yeah,
usually it takes, you don't get any, or it might take 10 cuts to finally get one. So I'm like batting almost 90-something% there, I guess. But
did you get anything on this new record?
I did not, man. What's up with y'all?
That's Jason.
God, let me text him right now. I'm gonna say, hey, remember where you started? Remember where it all started, buddy?
Hey, when Jason first got his record deal, man, all he talked about was wanting songs like yours back in your artist day, because That Ain't My Truck was a huge impact on artists like him.
Yeah.
So now you're writing songs for these guys. So one thing we've talked about is you were a boy in a man's world. Now you're a man in a boy's world.
Yeah.
Do you? I know that sounds corny, but do you find your approach to writing with these kids any different, other than motivating you to do something different?
Well, the good thing is for me is I grew up on so many different types of music. I loved rap and rock and blues and pop just as much as I did country. So I think that my lifetime love of all genres of music has helped me, especially with the younger generation. Also, Thomas Rhett's 28, my daughter's 24. We always listen to new stuff in the car, So I do keep up with what's going on, and I do think that helps, because a lot of the younger generation, sad to say, unless their parents listen to Waylon and Hank Jr. and Willie, they didn't grow up on a lot of older songs in country music. So it is kind of hard sometimes to write with a new kid that didn't grow up that way, and all they know is the more popular side of country, and to try to steer them back the other way is a little foreign to their ears sometimes. So you just I just try to write the best song. I say, look, dude, I'm here to help you build this house. If you want the porch to not be sitting on the house, it's very weird. I wouldn't suggest building your house this way, but if that's what you want, I'm going to try to build the best porch I can, even though it's detached from the house. But I would suggest let's move it back. Let's connect it to the wall if we can. So I just try, I don't try to change their vision of what they want to do. I just try to, I built a lot of houses in my day, and I'll be like, I just think that this house would look cool. You're going to want to live in this house a lot better if it was just a little bit this way. It's a little strange, but let's try it. Yeah. And so that's kind of my metaphor of how I approach the younger writers.
Star of the show. Mm-hmm. The first number one that you and Thomas Rhett wrote together.
Yes.
Was that an extra special sort of number one for you?
It was. I'd had a couple that I wrote for him, and then he and I have had a few songs together that went like top 5 that he wrote for other artists. But when you get that one that's together, then, I'm such a history nut. I'm started digging through. I'm like, has this ever been done? I know Frank Sinatra had a number one with Nancy, and Mel Tillis or Pam Tillis or Hank Jr. and Hank Sr. might have had something. But I tried to dig through, and I don't think any father and son have ever written a number one that the son sang.
Isn't that great?
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, that made me. I'm like, man.
So where's that one in the mantle?
Well, that one almost didn't even make it because we wrote it in 2011, and at that time we thought it was too pop for country music. It was pushing the limits, And there's no demo on it, no work tape. The only way that we could find the song was that there was a video of it on YouTube that he had played at a radio station on his first radio tour. And so they planned to play the YouTube video in the studio.
Wow.
To cut the thing. So it almost never even made it because we thought it was too far out there. And now when you listen to it, it doesn't sound, it sounds like normal country music today. You know, but that's a good one. And to also write it with Ben Hayslip. Who I grew up with and who Thomas Rhett's known since he was born. That was a cool one.
That's a great history.
Well, dude, I'm me just being in the business 25, 26 years too. You know, man, I'm real proud of the guys I get to hang out with and call. Yeah. I'm proud I get to call you and say, man, hey, man, I need songs. And you send me great songs.
Dude, the night at the ACMs this year, I'm you know, I see you 20 rows away and you're going, hey, you're motioning to me. And I'm going, I thought you were just waving at me. And I'm like, no, he's trying to tell me something. You were like, I need up-tempo songs for Jason. You know, so that was funny, you know, to me. You know, it's cool that we're out at this big award show and we're still talking songs, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, dude, I appreciate you being here. I love you being here, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Knox Country.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Knox Country Podcast. Special thanks go out to co-host Miss Lacey Griffin and producer Donnie Walker. See you next time.
You've entered Knox Country Outtakes.
Are we ready?
Yeah, dude, you're rolling. When you see pink, you're rolling.
I think Mickey's been sitting in traffic too long this morning.
I was stuck in traffic.
Mickey's going to kill you.
So, you know, we always joke when we're in the studio, hey, man, give me a little Hank Jr.
Right.
Give me a little Hank. And then Hank Jr.'s in the studio, and I found myself going, man, I need it to sound more like Hank, like him. He goes, I said, Hank, man, can we sing top to bottom about 3 times? He goes, I'll give you 2 because I like you. It was the funniest thing ever, dude.
Hey, y'all, this is Rhett Akins, and, you know, I was very excited to come do this show until I remembered that Knox nor Jason Aldean recorded any of my songs on this last Jason Aldean album.
That's good.
Knox Country Podcast Edition.